200 years haunted in deep space, the sinister secret we've discovered is spine-chilling. Jack had always heard the whispers, a town's dark history buried beneath its cobblestone streets, echoing tales too horrible to fathom. The heavy air of Stonemore clung to him like cobwebs, but desperation drove him to the old, crumbling building that loomed on the outskirts, the ghostly Stonemore Memorial Hospital. With a grimace, he entered the darkness, knowing it hadn't seen any comfort in decades. The walls whispered secrets, and the floors creaked with untold sorrows, setting the stage for the nightmares yet to unfold. His heart raced the first night inside, echoing with every faint sound of distant murmurs. Shadows flickered in his peripheral vision, twisting hauntingly out of focus. He stood still, breath hitching as he caught sight of something darting down the corridor. Was it his imagination? A chill crawled over his skin, the remnants of something dreadful lingering like smoke. This was where life had been extinguished long before his time, where hope had crumbled under the weight of tragic experimentation. As a security guard, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was never alone. Each pulse of the flickering fluorescent light sent a wave of unease rolling through him. He felt weighed down by the legacy of ghosts as he watched hours of surveillance footage. His stomach twisted painfully as he saw familiar faces of neighbors attending sinister gatherings in the hospital's decaying wards. Could it be? The whispers of darkness shadowed not just his life, but the very essence of his family. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Back home, things were shifting too. Lisa was restless, waking suddenly at night, her eyes wide with shadows dancing in the corners of the room. Muffled cries floated from the children's rooms, eerily mixed with their joyful laughter, sending jitters trickling down Jack's spine. The whole household felt different. It was as if the house itself was altering under the weight of the family's unspoken fear. Jack sensed the urgency to dig deeper into the town's history. That he spent endless nights poring over dusty records and newspaper clips in the attic. In the still of the night, he uncovered a chilling link. His great-grandfather, a doctor who had overseen everything from inhumane treatments to cruel experiments. Anguish wrapped around him like a vice. This dark legacy wasn't just a family curse, but a call to action. He had to stop the past from consuming his present. As he stormed home, desperation clawing at his throat, he approached the door to find a shadowy figure standing just inside. Familiar yet terrifying, the apparition seemed to mirror Jack's own darkest fears. The recognition slammed into him. Heart racing, he burst inside. His children were frozen, eyes wide and locked onto someone hovering just out of their sight. Could he shield them from the nightmares that clawed at their lives? Would he succumb to the shadows that crept closer, whispering stories of Stonemore's hidden horrors? Time was running out. He needed to know before the darkness claimed them all. Jack's breath caught as he crossed the threshold, his heart thundering in his ears. His children stood, trembling, as if a chill had gripped the very air around them. The shadow, a twisted echo of his own reflection, flickered in and out of sight, taunting the edges of his sanity. Panic surged through his veins, hot and suffocating. "Kids, back away!" he shouted, his voice slicing through the thick, suffocating silence. But their eyes remained glued to the apparition, pupils dilated in terror. The figure flickered again, its presence shifting like smoke, and Jack felt his body numb as anguish sliced through him. It couldn't be what he thought, not now. "Daddy?" The oldest, Lily, whispered. Her small voice trembled, pulling at strands of despair woven tightly in his chest. He caught a glimpse of the figure's face, and a sickening recognition washed over him. It was a younger version of his great-grandfather, a man he had only seen in old photos, eyes cold with madness, mouth stretched into a ghoulish grin. "Get back!" Jack yelled, stepping forward. The darkness around the figure rippled, and an unholy whisper slithered through the air, twisting words into daggers aimed straight at his soul. "Join us," it hissed, echoing the laughter of long-dead patients, their pain resonating in the air around him. Fighting the urge to flee, Jack clenched his fists, each heartbeat pounding like a war drum. He couldn't let whatever this was consume his family. They couldn't fall into the same legacy of horror that haunted Stonemore. Turning his gaze to the children, their faces pale and terrified, he whispered, "We need to leave. Now." He grabbed their hands, but the moment they turned to run, the apparition lunged forward. A wave of icy air crashed against them, freezing them in place. Jack felt the choking terror within him rise as their shadows intertwined, pulling them back toward the darkness. "We are family," the figure crooned, voice smooth like silk, wrapping around him like chains. "We belong to the night, to the whispers of Stonemore. I want to let you take them." Jack screamed, adrenaline surging. He yanked his children closer, the fear in their eyes igniting a fire deep within him. With one final surge, he pushed through the oppressive mist surrounding them, shoving the door open. Light poured into the hall, overpowering the shadows. As they stumbled outside, gasping for air, Jack felt momentary relief. But the oppressive weight still clung to him. Darkness flickered in the edges of his peripheral vision, promising that this battle was far from over. He turned to his children, seeing their wide-eyed fear mirrored in his own heart. "What was that?" Lily asked, voice small, filled with dread. I don't know," Jack stammered, his mind racing. "But whatever it is, it's tied to this town, to us." The ground rumbled beneath their feet, and a low growl echoed through the streets. The darkness surged even nearer, creeping closer, licking at the edges of their sanity as if summoning its next victim. Jack's heart dropped. They were not safe, not even out here. A thought clawed at him. What was left of his great-grandfather's experiments? "Jack," Lisa's voice trembled, pulling him from his thoughts. "What do we do? What if it comes for us in the night?" He looked around, eyes scanning the houses littered quietly across Stonemore. What secrets lay hidden within them? Time whispered in his ear, tightening its grip every second, urging him to find the truth behind the horrors, the legacy that refused to die. Every instinct urged him to flee, yet curiosity gnawed at him. They had to dig deeper. They had to confront the shadows. Jack could feel the weight of history bearing down on him, the urge to flee eclipsed by the need to understand. What if he didn't just confront the darkness, but what if he could uncover an even darker truth? What if every tale he heard was merely the tip of a much more sinister iceberg? With renewed determination, he grasped his children's hands tighter and took a step forward down the misty, cobblestone street. Courage mingled with dread, but it didn't matter anymore. As they moved, the shadows shifted behind them. They were never alone, but what would they find if they ventured back into the heart of Stonemore? The true nature of their haunted legacy awaited in the depths, twisting and writhing like a coiled serpent, ready to strike. Jack led his children down the narrow street, each step feeling heavier than the last. The air was thick, almost syrupy, and every glance made him feel as if unseen eyes were boring into them. The shadows danced along the walls of the old houses, their twisted forms drawing closer, as if extending a long, skeletal hand. The houses stood stoic, silent witnesses to a dark past, their windows like hollow eyes staring out into nothingness. Jack felt the weight of history, centuries of whispers pent up in these structures seeking release. He could almost hear them beckoning, begging for acknowledgement, as if they craved connection. "Daddy, I don't want to go in there," Lisa said, her small voice quivering like a branch in the wind. "We have to, sweetie," he replied, forcing certainty into his tone. "There's something we need to know." As they approached the nearest house, Jack's throat tightened. The door hung slightly ajar, creaking ominously as the breeze pushed it open. The scent of rot wafted out, a putrid reminder of decay, and he hesitated, taking a deep, shuddering breath. Lily tugged at his arm, her grip as tight as a vice. What if it's waiting for us?" Jack knelt down to her level, looking deep into her frightened eyes. "Whatever it is, it can't hurt us if we stand together." With determination that felt unnecessarily forced, he stepped inside, each creak of the floorboards echoing like a gunshot in the deafening silence. The room was dark, the air thick and stale. Dust motes floated in spots of gray light that managed to seep through grimy windows, and as Jack glanced around, he felt something shift in the atmosphere. It was coming from the basement. A low, continuous hum, almost like a heartbeat, sometimes chaotic, sometimes steady. "Stay here," he whispered to his children. "Don't leave us." They cried in unison. "It's just to check it out." "I promise I won't be long," he assured, but he felt the tremor in his own voice. Jack moved towards the door leading down to the basement, hesitant but compelled by some primal instinct. Each step felt like descending into the mouth of a great beast, ready to swallow him whole. He was about to confront whatever lurked in the shadows, the legacy that had haunted his family for generations. The concrete steps were worn and cold beneath his feet. The humming grew louder, pulsating through him, a dark rhythm that struck in time with his pounding heart. When he reached the bottom, he paused. Slick stone walls surrounded him, and the flicker of a dying bulb cast an eerie glow. Shadows writhed violently, distorting into grotesque shapes. Then, from the darkness, he saw it, a large, ancient-looking machine, wires twisted and coiled around its body like serpents. It pulsed the hum deeper into the ground, each thrum resonating with an unsettling familiarity. Suddenly, a low whisper cut through the darkness, slithering into his mind. "You shouldn't have come here." Fear gripped him, and he spun on his heel, rushing back up the stairs, his children clinging to him like lifelines. He was breathless, nearly lost, but then he saw it again, the figure. It hovered at the threshold, flickering like a candle in the wind. "You chose the path, now it knows you." It hissed. Jack stumbled backward, pulling Lily and Lisa close as darkness enveloped the doorway. "We need to get out," he shouted, but the shadows surged forward, crashing against them like a wave. With a last desperate push, Jack yanked the door shut, slamming it against the approaching darkness. Heart racing, he helped his children stumble back to the safety of the outside world, trembling under the weight of terror. The wind howled now, a mournful cry, pushing them towards the open street as darkness collided with the solid walls of Stonemore. The only refuge was ahead, but Jack felt the darkness coiling around them like an animal stalking its prey. "What do we do now?" Lisa cried, her voice soaked in despair. "We fight," Jack said, his voice stronger than he felt. "We uncover what they want, or we'll never be free." As they sprinted down the street, they could hear the whispers rising again, ever more insistent. Would they be able to unveil the truth, or was the shadow already too deep-rooted in their veins? The night held its breath, waiting to reveal monstrous secrets. Jack didn't stop running. The pounding of his heart drowned out Lisa's whimpers, and he could feel Lily's nails digging into his arm. They raced forward, the streetlights flickering above them like warning signals, struggling to pierce through the heavy darkness that surrounded Stonemore. "Daddy, the door. Is it safe?" Lily cried, glancing back nervously. The echo of whispers trickled from the house they had fled, a chilling chant that made Jack's skin prickle. "It has to be safe, we don't have a choice," he gasped, his breath coming in ragged bursts. They turned the corner, the silhouette of the next house looming before them. Just stepping onto the porch made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. The air felt charged, as if static electricity had crackled into being. "Daddy!" Lisa whimpered. She tugged at him, her eyes wide with terror. "What if they find us?" Jack glanced back down the street, where shadows seemed to ripple in response to his gaze. "They won't catch us," he assured, though doubt gnawed at him. They needed to find a safe place to gather their thoughts, to plan their next move. The porch creaked ominously as they stepped onto it, as if warning them against their entry. He pushed the door open slowly, the hinges groaning, and an avalanche of stale air rushed out to greet them. Inside was as dark as the last house, but the oppressive weight felt different here. It was a suffocating silence, a thick blanket that pressed down on them, sucking away the sound as if they were now trapped within a cocoon. Jack shone the flashlight, its beam cutting through the darkness, revealing peeling wallpaper and dust-covered furniture. "Let us find a room we can lock ourselves in," he instructed, sensing the urgency in his voice. They stepped further in, skirting around piles of debris that seemed to come alive in the shadows. "Upstairs." Lily pointed, her small finger guiding him toward a set of wavering stairs that spiraled up, half hidden in the gloom. He didn't know what gave him the confidence, but they had to get off the ground. They needed a vantage point to get a handle on their terror. As they ascended, whispers greeted them, rising like smoke. Jack's heart raced again as he strained to listen. "Help us," they pleaded, echoing through the gaps in the walls. "They are coming, did you hear that?" he asked, gripping the banister. The children nodded, their faces pale. "We have to hurry," he urged, and they picked up speed, their feet rushing over the worn steps as they reached the second floor. The hallway was dim, its air stale and thick, hanging like a fog. He scanned both sides, trying to remain calm as they passed warped door after warped door. Each one stood closed, shrouded in an unsettling aura. Jack suddenly stopped. A door at the end of the hall was slightly ajar, just enough for a sliver of light to cut through. Heart pounding, he shared a glance with his daughters. "Here," he whispered, guided by an underground fire of instinct. As he pushed the door open, a cold chill blasted against him, and the light inside danced wildly, shifting like angry spirits. This room was filled with old photographs, the walls covered in dusty frames depicting families that looked both joyful and sorrowful. A tattered rug lay in the center, threads unraveling as though decay itself had taken root here. "Daddy?" Lisa's voice trembled, her eyes wide in fear. "What's wrong with them?" Jack studied the faces in the photographs, a deep unease curling in his stomach. There was something familiar about the little girl in one of them. Dark hair, bright eyes. They look like us," he whispered. As he stepped further into the room, the floorboards groaned in warning. Something shifted behind him. He spun around, and the door slammed shut with a bang that reverberated through the floor like a warning shot. The whispers escalated into a cacophony, louder than before, weaving together into an unholy symphony that rattled his very bones. He looked back at the photos, and dread washed over him. They were staring straight at him. "Jack!" Lily screamed. He turned just in time to see a shadow slipping into the room, a dark figure emerging from the corner. It seized the light and twisted it into grotesque forms. "Run!" he shouted, pushing his children toward the window as the darkness surged forward, faster than he could react, clawing and reaching for them. But Jack hesitated. The faces in the photographs seemed to scream in chorus. "Stay with us!" With heart-stopping intensity, he realized they weren't merely images. They were souls bound to this nightmarish place. As he tore his gaze away, trying to grasp reality, his mind raced. Was this their fate too? The shadows closed and the window shattered as they plowed through, breaking free into the night. But Jack's thoughts raced. Had they really escaped, or was this just the beginning of something more sinister? What awaited them now in the lurking darkness? The cool night air struck them like a slap as they hit the ground outside. Jack barely registered the jagged glass of the window, shrapnel scattered like cruel little stars around them. He grabbed Lisa and Lily, pulling them close. "We need to move. Now!" They darted away from the house, breaths coming fast and shallow. Jack's eyes darted back. The room they'd just fled still pulsed with an eerie glow, whispers spilling out like a dark fog creeping toward them. It was as if the very walls of that house wanted them back, and the aggressive darkness didn't intend to let them go easily. They raced down the overgrown path, dark trees looming above like giant sentinels guarding forgotten secrets. The streets were empty and quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that filled one with dread, stretching taut like a drawn bowstring. Jack felt the weight of every second tick away, the weight of the choices he'd yet to make dragging him down. "Where do we go?" Lily pleaded, panting. Lisa clung to Jack's side, eyes wide, terror mirroring his own. "I don't know." He tried to project confidence, but uncertainty gnawed at his insides. Stonemore was a maze of shadow now, twisting around them like a living thing. He felt it curling around their legs, pulling them back toward the darkness they had just escaped. A light flickered at the end of the street, dim but steady. "Over there," Jack pointed, urgency gripping his voice. They pushed toward it, heartbeats racing in unison. As they approached, the light revealed itself as a diner, neon signs drenched in grime but still flickering weakly. The door stood ajar, squeaking on rusty hinges. Jack hesitated, glancing back at the growing shadows. "We can't go back there," he urged, dragging the girls inside. The diner was frozen in time, a time-worn relic from decades past. Red vinyl booths with frayed edges lined the walls, and a faded jukebox sat quiet in the corner, dusty and neglected. The smell of stale coffee hung thick in the air, mingling with the metallic scent of fear. "What is this place?" Lisa whispered, her tiny hand clutching Jack's shirt as if it could shield her from the world. "Just an old diner." "We'll hide here for a moment," he assured, hoping against hope that this sanctuary would hold. But the diner felt alive in a way that set his teeth on edge. The air felt charged, vibrating with an unseen energy. Jack moved deeper into the dim light, scanning for any signs of life behind the counter. The place felt abandoned yet curiously untouched, as if its spirit was still trapped within its walls. Out of the corner of his eye, Jack noticed something on the wall, a newspaper clipping, yellowed and tattered. He approached, heart racing. The headline read, "Tragedy strikes Stonemore, family disappears without a trace." Photos of smiling faces peered back at him, their eyes haunted, and he froze. Whenever Jack looked back at the pictures, he saw familiar features, the photos from the haunted house. Jack felt bile rise in his throat. "No, it can't be." Suddenly, the jukebox let out a crackle, the sound slicing through the stillness like a scream. Jack spun around, adrenaline surging as an old, static-filled tune began to play. The lyrics were a haunting lullaby that sent chills racing down his spine. "Stay with us" echoed in his mind, weaving in time with the music. Jack attempted to shake off the song's grip, but it wormed its way into his thoughts like a parasite. "Daddy, I don't like this," Lily whimpered, inching closer. "Neither do I." "We need to go," Jack finally decided, his voice determined yet trembling. He could feel the weight of the shadows outside pressing against the door, threatening to crush the fragile safety they had found. He turned on his heel, ready to leave, but a figure emerged from the deep shadows of the diner, stepping into the flickering light. Its face was obscured, but an unsettling familiarity rolled through the air around it. "Welcome back," the figure whispered, a voice that resonated like a long-buried memory. Jack's heart raced. Who or what was this? The shadows coiled tighter around the diner, not just outside but within the very walls. Jack's grip on his daughters tightened. They had barely escaped the last nightmare. But with this figure revealing itself, their next nightmare had just begun. "Run!" Jack shouted once more, but now the lurking darkness wasn't outside, it was inside, too. What horror awaited them in this seemingly safe haven? Jack's shout hung in the air, stark and urgent. The figure moved closer, looming larger in the flickering light of the diner. Jack's instincts screamed for him to act, but his legs felt heavy, rooted to the spot. "Who are you?" he demanded, trying to summon courage against the paralyzing fear. His voice cracked slightly, betraying him. It felt as if this figure, cloaked in shadows, absorbed the light around it, sucking every bit of warmth from the room. "Just a friend," it said, the words slithering out, smooth yet sinister. The eyes, Jack felt them piercing through the obscurity, dark and hollow, with a knowing gleam that twisted his stomach. "Stay away!" Lisa cried, her small body shaking against Jack. The figure took another step forward, and Jack snapped into motion. He grabbed Lily's wrist, pushing Lisa behind him. "We need to go now." He barked again, glancing toward the back exit, but the shadows seemed to elongate, reaching out like fingers, wrapping around their feet, pulling them back toward the darkness. In the corner, the jukebox blared louder, the unsettling tune repeating a single line that seemed to mock them, "Stay with us, we can't leave." The figure rasped, voice dripping with something akin to malice. "You're home now." It gestured to the diner walls, to the newspaper articles that lined them, all detailing stories of tragic fates, families lost, lives erased. A horrible revelation gripped Jack. This is where they went. They never left. He could feel the cold creeping up his spine. "We're not like them," he shouted defiantly, dragging his daughters toward the door, but it was locked. No rattling, no give. It was as if the diner had come alive, a sentient beast trapping them. The figure chuckled softly, mirthless and cruel. "You think you can escape? You're players in a game far beyond your understanding." Jack's heart pounded, an unsteady rhythm echoing the dying beats of the diner's long-lost patrons. Sweat trickled down his brow as he scanned the walls for other exits. The only light flickered erratically like a dying star, casting twisted shadows that warped their surroundings. "Daddy, please!" Lily cried, tears shining in her eyes. Again, the figure took a step closer, a smile of teeth emerging from blackness. "We can be a happy family again," it urged, and Jack felt a tug at his heart, something dark whispering for him to join whatever hell waited within that sanctum. "No! Stop!" Jack shouted, instinctively shielding his girls. The shadows tightened their grip, and as he turned to find another way out, the jukebox suddenly stopped mid-verse. An engulfing silence settled upon the diner, oppressive and expectant. Jack felt the weight of hidden eyes watching him from every corner, from every haunted soul entrapped by time. "What do you want from us?" he gasped, desperation creeping into his throat. "Just your souls," the figure replied flatly, almost as if reciting a line. "You belong to the shadows now, like the others." Jack's breath quickened. He could feel the walls closing in around them, a predator's maw. But the flicker of a distant memory ignited in him the last shred of defiance. "Don't listen to it, girls," he urged, hoping desperately that his voice could pierce through the suffocating dread. The grin on the shadow's face widened, almost gleeful. "It's too late to run. You're already part of the story." Jack knew they had to act now. With terror surging through his veins, he pulled the girls as hard as he could, desperation fueling a raw burst of power. He shouted for them to follow him, darting toward the back of the diner, looking for any exit in the gloom. But the shadows bellowed, swirling, and as they ripped through the diner's air, a sharp snap echoed. Jack stumbled, feeling the floor give way beneath him. The figure lunged forward in the chaos, and Jack caught a fleeting glimpse of its face, familiar yet grotesque, a twisted reflection of what he feared could happen to them. Darkness enveloped them as he fell, still gripping his girls tight. What awaited them in that abyss? What horrors lay beyond the tangible world of the diner? Jack's heart raced as they plummeted into the black void, the sense of weightlessness swallowing him whole. The girls screamed, their voices blending into the echo of fear that surrounded them. He gripped them tighter, fighting against the panic clawing at his mind, and then, a sudden impact jolted through him. The ground solidified beneath their feet, but it felt wrong, like stepping onto a dense blanket of fog. They were in a dimly lit room, walls covered in peeling, yellowed wallpaper that dripped with moisture. The air was thick, suffocating, heavy with the scent of decay. "Where are we?" Lily whispered, her voice trembling, her small hand clasping Jack's tightly. Jack squinted into the darkness, searching for any sign of escape, anything that didn't reek of despair. "I don't know." His voice faltered, fear creeping into his throat as he took in their unsettling surroundings. Before he could process another thought, the floor creaked ominously. A presence loomed near, draped again in shadows. It stepped closer, the familiar figure from the diner morphing into something more sinister, more real. Its smile stretched wider, revealing teeth that looked like ancient tombstones. "You've entered a special place, Haven Tu," it sang, voice dripping with sickly sweet malice. "A gateway to the forgotten." The air thrummed with a palpable energy, a bitter pulse that seemed to resonate through the walls. Jack moved backward instinctively, pulling the girls with him, but soulless eyes emerged from every corner, staring, watching with unnerving intensity. They were not alone. Whispered voices crept into Jack's ears, fragments of lifeless pleas, echoing from distant shadows, forming a chorus of lost souls. "Help us, save us," they called, voices layered over each other like a grotesque chant. Jack's skin crawled, his instincts screamed at him to flee, yet somehow they were trapped in this otherworldly dimension, held prisoner by the very air they breathed. "Can't you hear them?" The figure taunted, its head tilting, dark eyes glinting like dying embers. "They're begging for salvation." "Shut up. You're lying," Jack shouted, his voice trembling. He glanced at Lily and Lisa, saw them trembling as they pressed into him. "Stay close, don't listen to it." "Oh, but they're so lonely," the figure crooned, drawing closer. "It's not just me, they can be so persuasive." A horrid thrill surged through Jack's chest. "Let us go," he yelled, rage flaring within him. "We don't belong here." "Yet you're here," the figure replied, stepping to the side to reveal a door at the far end of the room. "And those who enter must decide stay and join the family, or attempt the leap back to reality. But beware," it added mockingly, "the leap may not be what you think." Jack's breath caught as the shadows seemed to seep toward the door, curling around its edges like a greedy lover. Dread settled in his gut. He felt trapped between darkness and the unknown. "What's on the other side?" Lily asked, terror mingling with hope in her voice. "I don't know," Jack murmured, desperation flooding through him. The figure laughed, a sound like nails on glass. "Only fate will tell, dear Jack. But I promise the truth sometimes lies deeper than you wish to know." With every heartbeat, the walls constricted, specters forming in the corners of his vision, taunting him for not surrendering. Time moved differently here, seconds stretched into lifetimes. In that heartbeat, Jack realized they needed a plan. Just as he was about to urge the girls to move, the ground beneath them shuddered, a horrifying grind like teeth closing around flesh. "What now?" Jack shouted, voice rising in panic. But before he could respond, the shadows surged hungry and relentless. Where would they go? Would escape be possible, or were they merely feeding the darkness? The door creaked open, and a chilling wind beckoned. What lay beyond it? A way out or a descent deeper into the nightmare? As the door creaked wider, the chilling wind howled like a feral beast, a siren call that pulled at Jack's very core. He hesitated, his instincts screaming to bolt. But the girls were clustered around him, their wide eyes reflecting fear. They needed him. "Stay in my sight," he urged, his voice low but firm. They nodded, lips pressed together as they edged toward the yawning darkness beyond the doorway. The air roared, a tempest of whispers swirling in the dimness. It was as if the room were alive, exhaling the anguish of the souls trapped within. The shadows seemed to pulse, flickering and growing like waves crashing against the shore, alternating between violent thrashes and eerie calm. Jack felt dizzy, swept along by the tide of fear that dragged him forward, to the threshold. "Jack. I don't want to go," Lily whimpered. He turned to face her, heart heavy with dread. "I know. But we have to try." He squeezed her hand, hoping to send her a spark of courage. With a shuddering breath, Jack stepped into the corridor beyond, dragging Lily and Lisa with him. The air was colder here, biting into their skin, every exhalation visible as heavy fog. The faint glimmer of light at the end of the hall was tantalizing, whispering promises of safety or a deeper encounter with the lurking horror. As they moved forward, the whispers grew louder. "Join us, it's beautiful here, never alone." Each word dripped with promises and despair, strumming the chords of Jack's fear, casting shadows over the shaky hope that guided him. What if we just run back? Lisa's voice quaked, glancing over her shoulder at the door that seemed to pulse with an inviting glow. No, Jack said sharply. We can't go back. We have to keep going. Just then, a sudden chill wrapped around them, palpable and thick. The dim light flickered, and Jack felt a surge of panic. The walls seemed to close in, whispering secrets he dared not hear. They stumbled onward, treading lightly as the light at the end of the corridor flickered like a candle on the brink of dying. As they approached the end of the hall, they found themselves before another door, old and rusted, adorned with twisted figures that seemed to squirm and writhe. Jack could feel the pulse of the darkness behind him, pushing him towards the opening. Whatever happens together, he stressed, eyes darting between the girls as he reached for the handle, knowing that whatever lay beyond could seal their fate. With a forceful yank, the door swung wide open, revealing a vast chamber filled with shadows that seemed to dance. At the center was an altar, adorned with faded photographs and personal belongings, each one soaked with raw emotional energy. Each object whispered stories of loss, despair, and betrayal. No, this can't be real, Jack muttered, taking a step back. But the girls were frozen, pulled into the gravity of the horrors displayed before them. Suddenly, laughter echoed through the chamber, chilling and unsettling. The figure from the diner appeared, now towering above them. Welcome to the heart of forgotten souls, it sang. Each of these items belonged to someone who chose to stay, sacrificing their freedom for the safety of this family. Jack felt the walls close in again, the air thickening as if the room itself was aware of his growing dread. You can't keep us here, he shouted, but his voice was weak against the laughter that enveloped them. It reverberated like a threat, promising despair. Stay, leave, the figure taunted, its eyes now swirling maelstrom of black and white. The room echoed with the chorus of lost souls begging for release, urging Jack to join their ranks. The shadows reached for the girls, coaxing them closer. Run! Jack screamed, lunging backward, his heart pounding against his ribs as he grabbed their arms, pulling them away from the altar. But as they turned, the darkness surged forward, swallowing the light behind them, trapping them in a claustrophobic darkness. Jack's chest tightened as the ominous laughter crescendoed, wrapping around his mind like a vice. What if the only way out is to confront what lies in the depths? Their backs pressed hard against the wall. Jack knew they were running out of choices, and soon they would face the ultimate test. Could they confront the evil lurking in the shadows, or would they be pulled into the darkness forever? Jack's heart raced, adrenaline coursing through his veins like ice water. The laughter echoed, but it wasn't just a sound, it was alive, wrapping around them, squeezing their sanity. The girls looked to him, eyes wide with fear, searching for answers he didn't have. Together he repeated, though his voice faltered, sounding more like a desperate plea than a rallying cry. The shadows swirled close, breathing down their necks like a predator poised to strike. Jack, I can't, Lily whimpered, her breath quick and shallow. Get to the altar, he barked, pointing towards its grotesque forms. It was a mad idea, but staying here felt worse. They charged forward, the ground beneath them feeling slick and unstable, as if it wanted to swallow them whole. Each step toward the altar was a battle against the invisible force, a tide of malevolence threatening to push them back. Jack felt the whispers intensify as they approached, clawing at their minds, dragging them into a chilling narrative of despair. Stay with us, the shadows murmured, their tones seductive, sweetened by promises of comfort. Embrace the darkness, shut up, Jack yelled, fury igniting within him. Denial, rejection, he had to fight it. He had to fight for Lily and Lisa. They reached the altar, breathless and trembling. The items atop it were disturbing. Faded photos of smiling faces stared back, frozen in time, their eyes dull and devoid of life. Jack recognized a familiar face, a girl from their town, missing for years. This can't be. Where were they? He whispered, voice trailing off. What are we supposed to do? Lisa asked, trembling. Maybe we need to break the cycle, Jack suggested. If we destroy something here, it might Jack. Look. Lily's finger shot to a darkened corner of the chamber. A shadow rippled, twisting in on itself, forming shapes that should not exist in this realm of reality. As the form solidified, it morphed into a figure clad in a tattered cloak, its face obscured. "You are not worthy," it hissed, voice unnaturally calm, dripping with malice. "You seek to destroy, but only serve to feed the cycle." Panic exploded in Jack's chest. The entity's presence was overwhelming, a suffocating weight of despair. "We don't want any part of this," he shouted, every ounce of his being urging him to flee. But the shadows tightened their grip, pushing them back against the altar's edge. "Stay with me," the figure crooned, lifting a skeletal finger towards the photos. Jack's vision blurred as the room darkened further, those familiar faces now flickering like a television on the fritz, lost between life and death. "No!" he roared, wrenching himself free from Lisa's grasp. "I'm not giving in." He lunged for the altar, grabbing the nearest photograph, ripping it from its place. The moment his fingers grazed the surface, a scream erupted, shrill and filled with anguish, washing over them like a torrential wave. It wasn't just sound, it was emotion, pain, fear, longing, each wave crashing harder than the last. "Jack! What are you doing?" Lisa's voice climbed higher, panic-stricken. "I have to end this." He felt the shadows push back harder, the laughter returning, echoing the collective pleading of lost souls. Suddenly, a blinding light pulsed from the shredded photograph, illuminating the chamber with a fierce glow. Jack felt himself pulled into the light, weightless but terrified as the screeching intensified. Then silence. The light flickered, and slowly receded to darkness. Jack opened his eyes, heart hammering. The chamber was gone. In its place, they stood in a forest, the air thick and humid, familiar but wrong. "Where are we?" Lily whispered, scanning their surroundings. Before Jack could answer, a low growl emanated from the trees, piercing the silence, and sending icy tendrils of dread coursing through him. "Something's not right," he muttered, glancing over his shoulder at Lisa and Lily, their faces pale with fear. The growl came again, closer this time, mixing with the whisper of the wind. "You thought it was over?" echoed a chilling voice just beyond their sight. Jack swallowed hard. Realizing this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. "Stay close," he commanded, a wave of anxiety washing over him. They turned, aware that whatever lurked in the shadows had merely been waiting for a moment to strike, and they were still very much in danger. What awaited them beyond the trees? The answer loomed thick in the air, shadowed by an unknown terror. The forest loomed ominously before them, an endless grid of chaotic shadows and unseen dangers. Jack's heart thundered in his chest, unyielding in its rhythm as dread wrapped around him like a vice. The last confrontation had only shifted their nightmare to another domain, and the growl resonated through the trees, each reverberation sending tremors of fear through his family. "Daddy, I'm scared," Lily whimpered, her grip tightening around his arm. Jack could feel Lisa trembling slightly beside him, with her gaze fixed on the darkness that seemed to pulse and shift between the trees. "It's okay, we just need to keep moving," Jack assured, forcing determination into his voice. But inside, panic gnawed at him. He felt exposed, vulnerable, as if the forest was aware of their every fear and doubt, each fear a tantalizing treat drawing it closer. With little choice, they pressed forward, stepping carefully over twisted roots and uneven ground. Jack's mind raced. There had to be a way out, some kind of sanctuary amidst all the nightmares. He didn't want to think about what would happen if they were caught by whatever haunted these woods. The growls continued, echoing closer now, less a warning and more a promise. Jack pushed his daughters a little ahead, scanning the shadows. He saw them, shapes writhing and coiling as if alive. Their breath came in uneven bursts, he could feel the darkness brushing against their skin, hungry for them. Suddenly, a sharp crack pierced the stillness. Jack spun around, instincts kicking in. A massive figure surged through the trees, slashing at the air with claws that glinted like knives in the dim light. Its eyes glowed a menacing red, reflecting the family's terror. "Run! Now!" Jack shouted, adrenaline spiking as he shoved Lily and Lisa ahead. The three sprinted through the undergrowth, the growl morphing into a hellish roar behind them. Jack could feel the heat of the creature's breath crawling up his back, as if the shadows themselves were reaching for them. They dodged into a small clearing, a patch of light breaking through the treetops, illuminating the two stone pillars flanking an ancient archway. It seemed almost a beacon amid the encroaching darkness. "Over there!" Jack cried, pulling his daughters toward it. Hope surged in his heart. Maybe this was that long-awaited sanctuary. As they reached the arch, Jack's heart sank. A hollow void lay beyond, a swirling, shifting darkness waiting to consume them if they stepped inside. "What is this place?" Lisa whispered, eyes wide in trepidation. "I don't know, but we have to find out," he replied, steeling his resolve. "It might be our only chance." But before they could decide, the creature roared again. It was on them, and Jack felt the air charge with its menace. "We have to jump," he urged, grabbing Lily and Lisa. Without waiting for a response, he stepped into the swirling maw of darkness with his daughters locked to him. A force pulled them down, deep into a void of nothingness. Jack felt dizzy, sensations blurring into chaos, memories, emotions, histories, all tangled together, pounding into his psyche. But among that storm, one thought anchored him: his family. He had to protect them. With a sudden jolt, they landed in a new realm, an undefined space that vibrated with energy, filled with possible realities. A long-forgotten hall stretched out before them, lined with golden doors, each reflecting a distinct cosmic glow, an invitation and a warning all at once. "What is this place?" Lily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I think it's where choices are made," Jack replied, eyes scanning the doors, each one radiating hints of stories long untold. "I think we might need to choose one to escape." "But what if we pick the wrong door?" Lisa trembled, worry etched on her small face. "It's a risk we have to take," Jack reassured, uncertain but desperate. "There's no going back, only moving forward." The growl echoed faintly in the distance, a reminder they weren't out of danger yet. "Which one?" Lily pointed, her finger trembling toward a door glowing faintly blue in the right corner. As they approached, Jack felt a swirling sensation in the air, an energy beckoning him. "This one," he announced confidently, gripping the handles tightly. "Together." He flung the door open, a rush of sapphire light cascading around them as they crossed the threshold. Immediately, they were enveloped in a wash of warmth, breaking free from the icy grip that shadowed them for so long. They stumbled out onto the familiar cobblestone streets of Stonemore, bathed in dawn's first light so bright and brilliant it almost felt unnatural. The shadows that had haunted them were gone, the weight of their past seemingly lifted. They were home, and yet Jack's throat tightened. What lay ahead? The town was peaceful, but he knew better than to trust a facade. They had to confront not just the darkness they evaded but the truth of their family's legacy. He turned to his daughters, fear and love mingling in his gaze. "It's not over," he said, determination swelling in his voice. "We'll face whatever comes our way." They looked out over Stonemore. Its streets held secrets, and Jack understood now that they needed to unearth them. They weren't just tied to this town, they were a part of its story, and the shadows of the past would always linger until they confronted them. "Whatever happens next, we face it together," he declared, hearts united in resolve. Together, they had weathered storms of darkness. Together, they would forge a new path, shedding the ghosts of their legacy and rising into a future filled with light. The air felt different as they walked away from the unsettling tales of their past, the echoes of fear still whispering in the distance but not without a promise of hope. With his daughters by his side, Jack took a deep breath, ready to uncover the next chapter, ready to rebuild, and in the depths of Stonemore, somewhere among the shadows, restlessly swirling secrets lay waiting for the brave and the foolish alike. As the sunlight warmed their backs, Jack grasped their hands tightly and stepped forward, ready to write a different ending. If you made it this far, you need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that are waiting to captivate you. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep us alive. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this spine-chilling conclusion. Let us hear your thoughts. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who desperately need to see this ending. Let's grow our community of thrill seekers and story lovers together.